Very good evening to all of you. Welcome to today's show of Fast Track Career Guidance. As you would be aware that we started this right after the lockdown started, and with the pandemic and with the number of days increasing, the number of Fast Track Career Guidance has also increased. Uh, this has been brought to all of us thanks to NSHM, which is a college based from Bengal, and they have two locations, one in Kolkata and the other is in Durgapur. They have uh, been associated or and all their courses, which are 57 courses, undergraduate and postgraduate programs, are approved by the UGC curriculum. The more important thing is that they have over 25,000 alumni, and presently they have more than 5,000 students who are enrolled for these various programs. They have over 370 faculties and 75 visiting faculties, and they have a lot of industry collaborations for the various programs that they conduct. Interestingly, this Fast Track Career Guidance and the Master Class webinar series has had a very resounding, viewership. And mostly what has happened is that students from all over have actually benefited from it. And this is the 52nd of this entire series. And it has had more than 3.5 lakh people viewing this across. And the number of queries has also been increasing, and more importantly, because the students have got their results both in terms of class 10 and class 12, and I'm sure many of them are on the verge of deciding their careers. And today we have the opportunity to be associated with Miss Neha Agarwal, who is going to take us through the entire realm of psychology and related professions. Neha Agarwal herself, she began her journey into psychology right after class 10. And incidentally, coming from a business family, which we will hear from her directly a little later, of course, she had to convince her parents as well as her relatives as to how psychology could be a career for her. And she went on to do her graduation from Calcutta University in psychology, and then a BA in psychology, and then went on to do her MSc in counseling psychology. And that's very interesting how she took that small detour into counseling psychology. And presently, she is pursuing her MPhil in the same subject. And of course, she is also a practicing counseling psychotherapist who has been a big boon, one of the many in India who has been of a major help during this pandemic. So welcome to the show, Neha. Really nice to see your smiling face, and I'm sure we have a lot of things which we will listen to today from a psychologist perspective. So the first thing which I wanted to know was regarding the profession that you are in today. How is it that your parents got convinced about it? And if you could just briefly share that brief journey with us.
To start with, thank you for the gracious introduction. I wouldn't have been able to put it this well. So, as you know, psychology in itself is one of those fields where there's a lot of myths and misconceptions and a lot of ideas around it. So, when I approached psychology, there was this whole thing about psychologists only work with mental health illnesses, which is true, but partly that we read minds. I have been with psychology for the last 8 years and I haven't been able to read one single mind as such. And we have like porcelain chambers, we work in hospitals, all of it, which isn't the complete fact. So going back to my journey, I met Mr. Shankar back in when I was in 10th grade, about 8 or 9 years ago. So that's exactly when I got introduced to psychology. I knew I didn't want to do business. I knew I didn't want to go into the same path. I wanted to work with people. So that became a motivating force behind psychology. Again, coming from a business family, family was very supportive. They were very convinced that it's okay for me to do whatever I want. But there was for sure hesitance. There was a lot of question. They weren't sure if they would feel safe or secure, or I would be safe or secure as a professional going ahead. So a lot of question came in that direction.
Great. So critically, I mean, this is one very important facet, because you know, parents, when they have to guide their students with a career which they maybe their own perception about that career, or the word psychologist or counseling is a kind of a word which is associated with a different concept today. I mean, yeah, maybe 9, 10 years ago, even so.
Right.
So if you were to pursue psychology, so therefore it was considered something that you would get certain people to meet who would be challenged and who would have to be brought back to normal. So that was perhaps one of the
Absolutely.
criteria, yeah, or this sensitivity, should we call it. So how did you kind of convince them?
So initially, again, going back to, I was really sure I wanted to work with people, for instance. And secondly, they were okay with me taking, but there was a lot of questions coming from others about the whole, okay, are you going to be working with mental health patients? What is it going to be like? What is your life going to look like? What, we have not heard of a psychologist. What does the pay scale look like? Would you be safe in a career like that, both financially and personally? So it wasn't very difficult to convince the family, but obviously the culture community come from a very heavily Marwari business class family did have an impact on how, again, I was brought up and how the conversation around it was. Again, going in initially, there was a lot of hesitance because the conversation I heard from everybody wasn't very, reinforcing or approaching. I started from confusion to, okay, I want to pursue this, I really enjoy this, to feeling attacked. So every time I was back in my graduation day, somebody would ask me a question, I would feel the need to defend myself and say, hey, no, that's not what psychology is. To an point where I am right now, where I am completely fine with all kinds of questions. And I know it comes from a space of I'm not aware, rather than I want to attack you, or rather than I want to demean the field as such.
True. So has there been a shift in the sensitization of the society in as far as meeting a counselor or a counseling psychotherapist or a psychologist? Has there been a shift over the last 10 years that you've seen?
Absolutely. There has been a huge shift. We do have a lot of work to do. Let's say when I was back in school, there was nothing called a school counselor or an educational counselor. I have both worked in a college professionally and in a school right now where I'm working. A lot of people are aware that counseling is not just to do with only mental health concerns or mental health illnesses, but also concerns of daily life. It branches into so many fields right now. It's starting to branch into hospitals, in sports, which is one of the most upcoming new fields and trends in psychology, career counseling, a lot of those things. So there is awareness. A lot of social media influencers, a lot of movie stars have been talking about the importance of it, which has kind of brought down the taboo. But we as society personally have to take a responsibility to bring it down further.
True. And I think one of the critical facets which the pandemic has brought up, Neha, I mean, since you're here and you at this moment and juncture obviously are doing a lot of work related to telecounseling across the country. Uh, this pandemic has obviously brought up certain areas of the human mind where a whether it is a student who has to attend school, who's not meeting his or her friends, who's not going out to do physical activities, they're all holed up in the same place. They're seeing the same people day in and day out. Maybe, you know, they're hearing a lot of stories from the news and the newspapers. Of course, also the clampdown in terms of the lockdown itself. Many people, maybe the adults, the kind of conversations that they have at home could also trigger a lot of influences in these uh, children. The parents, the working people who may have lost their jobs or who have had salary reductions or it could be even where, where there are, the number of people living in a small house and all of them working from home. I have had situations where both man and woman, it's a dual income family, both of them with a computer, the child as well with a computer. Okay, and therefore, you can well understand that it's almost screen time and they do not have much time for themselves. So I'm sure so quickly, if you could tell us what is it that the society is going through with and how do we tackle this?
So there has been a massive change in what emotions we're suddenly feeling. Anxiety, for instance, has always been prevalent, but with the pandemic, the feeling of overwhelm, anxiety, exhaustion, hopelessness, I am stuck with my family, I'm stuck in a job, I'm not comfortable, I'm stuck with a very low pay, I've lost a job, or even for students. So right now I'm working with a lot of students. As I said, I do a lot of training workshop. There's constantly a parent available in the room monitoring the child, but the child is not used to. The parent is not used to having the child in the same room. Spouses, a lot of conflicts have started because we're not used to having them around so often. So all of that there's a lot of anger. And anger, being a common symptom outside, has a lot of inward emotions connected, which we are not being able to recognize. There is a feeling of frustration, a lot of fear. The anger is always masking fear behind it. So, a lot of helplessness, hopelessness, sadness, stuck, I don't know, confusion, frustration, a lot of that is happening for sure. And even with students, working population, those who are not even, who are at home presently managing the household system has completely changed. The narrative of the entire society has changed. So it's been very difficult for people to cope with it. I have been having so much of tele-counseling right now. Apart from the full-time counseling that I'm doing, there's a lot of individuals of all variety of ages, starting from somebody from fourth grade to somebody who is in their late 60s, approaching for help.
My goodness. So it's so nice to hear that people now feel that there is a necessity for them to connect with a professional.
Right.
And that itself is very heartening. So A is, of course, self-recognizing the need for talking to a professional. The second is picking up the phone and obviously calling up that person and unhesitantly being able to share their inner feelings, should I call it. And how do you help them, Neha?
So again, it's a huge process. You have to be trained very, very rigorously to get through it, because everybody who walks in will come with a certain set of concerns. And this is human entities we're talking about. No two concern have the same solution. No two people have the same way of having a conversation. It would start with a strong rapport building. If I, as a therapist, cannot connect with you, cannot make you feel trusted or safe, nothing else would happen further. So it starts with a connection, it starts with trust building, it starts with that conversation, and that gets into therapy where we explore a lot of concerns together. It can be a stepwise goal. A lot will come in, and there are days my clients leave very happy, and there are days they will leave me cursing, but that's the entire process. You have to feel both negatives and positive to get to the end of the journey.
Wow. So it is really a lot of calmness in your side. Your voice talks about it. It's so soothing to hear your voice. And more importantly, I'm sure you also have to keep a lot of documents in place as to who is calling you up, what are their concerns, or what are the conversations that you've had, and maybe some kind of an action plan that you may have forwarded further.
Right. It is that. So we have, everything is documented, but it is documented in a manner which is confidential. So anybody else cannot have an access to it, or even if they do have an access, you wouldn't necessarily know what the conversation is about. So we have everything in place. We have a structure, we have a goal. A therapist has its private goal that I want this out of my client, and a goal in union, which is together through the process. I want my client and the client wants to achieve this.
Okay.
So there's a lot of goal setting. There is a lot of feedback mechanism through the process, a lot of homework as well.
Well, that's interesting. Really good. So So critically, this is one area of psychology which is being used, and obviously with the number of people becoming sensitive to this
Mhm.
entire exercise, that I need to talk to somebody who is impartial, who doesn't know me or my family, and who's going to give me a good listening.
Right.
Yeah, so he or she is going to give me his or lend her ears to listen to what I'm going to tell, and also being impartially trying to nurture me in my own way. Not necessarily it's an advice, it is more of discussion. And
Right.
I think one of the words that you have commonly used, bringing them to normal conversation, is that something which you would
Yes.
like to highlight?
Yes. So we as therapists believe in the whole concept of normalizing the conversation about mental health. So there's this
Okay.
one example I love to give my clients and even my students for that matter. We always have this discussion where, let's say magically I transform into a doctor overnight. I have no training, nothing, just a magical transformation. I have a patient coming in tomorrow and I start talking to the patient. I realize I need to operate on the patient. I am not trained again. So I start operating. I've done my job, but I don't know what to do next. I don't know how to close my patient up.
Yes.
I am honestly telling you, I have all intentions to help this person. I did not intend for this person to die, but I am not trained. I do not know how to do it well. Similarly, everybody around us have well intentions for us. They really want to help us, providing social support, talking, and all of it. But the training becomes even more important to help you through the process. As normal it is to go and seek for a doctor in times of physical crisis, it's equally important, if not more, to go and get a mental health help. So we are trying to normalize the conversation. Every household needs to know that it's completely okay for me to talk to a therapist. I am telling you personally, I have been a practicing therapist for the last 3 years, and I have been in therapy for the last 4.
That's really interesting and a very honest confession to say that it's not that the therapist knows it all, but it is
Absolutely not.
just the guiding conversation and normalizing the conversation, which is
Right.
true. So that's wonderful. And Neha, so one area which you're talking about is psychotherapy. So we will come back to maybe the number of career options which are related to it. There is already a question as to how was your journey, or what would you recommend? So, for example, a student who is in class 10,
Mhm.
what kind of subject combination does he or she choose? And based on which he or she can think about getting into psychology as or becoming a psychologist or a counselor, or the multitude of career options which are there,
Mhm.
how would you recommend? What should he or she choose?
The beauty of this field is you can be from anywhere or any aspect of field and subject, and you can still make it through the process. So right now I'm working with a team of 4 people, and all 4 of us come from a very different background. I personally took humanities. I had history, geography, political science as a combination in my initial school years. I have colleagues who took commerce and science, but right now we are at the same at par level. Nothing changes. Whatever, if the slight change which happens later in the journey. So I did a BA psychology honors, as you already mentioned, which is a bachelor's of arts, and then I did an MSc, which is a huge shift from arts to science. But the career path did not necessarily have an impact till I took a master's. So it is only very, very important that you decide through the process where you want to be. So till I was in my college, that is my degree, I did not know which field of psychology I'm interested in. I did
Ah,
an honors. I realized these are the soft fields, and this is where I am inclined towards. And I did a specialization in that.
okay.
But coming back to the whole bit that I did a psychology honors, you don't have to necessarily go that path. Beautifully, a lot of colleges are providing with triple majors option. I know a lot of people who feel confused. If I want psychology, let's say I want economics, what do I do? So there are
Hmm.
triple majors like PSY, which is psychology, sociology, economics, PS Eco, and a lot of combination where you start with the journey and you find out which is the field you are more inclined towards and take it from there.
Right. So that makes a lot of sense. Yeah. And so you were very clear that you would be doing your graduation, and then you found out your areas, and then you
Correct.
went on to specialize in those in your masters.
Mhm.
And then when you are talking about MPhil,
Mhm.
what does it require for an individual to reach that point of you know, education or academics in this subject?
Okay, so MPhil is necessary. The full form is Masters of Philosophy in
Yes. Okay.
Psychology. So it's basically, you can be from any field and want to do a research on it, want to contribute to the education field as such, and not just practical orientation like working in the field, but in academics as well. So you have to start working on a research oriented background. You have to have a master's degree for sure.
Okay.
You have to take certain examinations to get through the MPhil process.
Okay. And when it comes to MPhil, do you have to appear for any of the university requirement exams? Or
Yes. So every university have their own exams. We used to have a criteria of clearing NET, which is NET,
right,
but NET has been right now only restricted for if you need a PhD. You clear your NET and go to PhD, or either you have your MPhil cleared and you can go to PhD. Then you don't have to do your NET. So it's either or.
Okay. So that's nice. So that is one important area. And what streams are there when you're doing your graduation? So, you know, I've heard things like clinical psychology, then there is forensics, there is criminal psychology, there is also cyber psychology now, social psychology. So are these different things inbuilt into your graduation, or you specialize later on?
So it is initially inbuilt, but
Okay.
you do a specialization forward. So when I say I'm a counseling psychologist, which means I deal with all kinds of population, right? So I'm also a child psychologist. I'm also somebody who works with education and adult psychology. But there is further division in clinical work, which specifically works with mental health disorders. I work with mental health concerns, which does not have to be disorders as such. There's sports psychology. There's something called OB, or organizational behavior psychology. So any big firm like Tata, Birla, anybody today has a psychologist on board. And not only do they help through the hiring process, they also make sure your transaction into the business is smooth. How does the company grow? All of it would also be a part of it. So we have OB, we have clinical psychology, counseling, forensics, sports, cognitive and behavioral. And there's something very interesting, which is you are a career counselor, so there is career guidance for sure.
Correct.
We have a lot of collaborative work coming up. So there is social work, which is somewhere close to sociology and psychology and builds the gap between the two fields. So a lot of NGO work, service work as such.
So these are again whenever there is any kind of you know, disaster. So the stigma that is attached with this, so they also have to attend to such social support. Okay. And even these social platforms and advertisements.
Yes.
That's also a very interesting area where consumer psychology and consumer behavior. So that's also another area. So does it mean that now psychology per se is getting more and more expanded into every kind of human behavior? And because it now is becoming almost, you know, people have become sensitive to the issue that it is okay and it is normal to have a psychologist in play in my life, so that I am myself guiding, you know, basic things much better in life. So does that increase the expanse of career options which are there?
Absolutely.
How, and any statistics to map that, or anything that you could share with us?
So as you rightly said, everywhere there's a human placed, there's a psychologist placed alongside. Psychology is the study of mind and behavior. So any human field or any interaction of human has a psychologist, right? You said entertainment industry. All we see from a side of a screen is a movie star acting, an advertisement being played. We do not know the intricacies behind it. What will attract the individual? What feeling do I want to tap into? So there's a psychologist in the team telling you, okay, I want them to feel happy. So these are the feelings I want to tap into.
Ah,
Right? And very interestingly, we have our big firms and politicians for that matter, our president, our vice president, prime minister, all of them has a behavioral analyst who is also a psychologist, help them to tell them what kind of conversation or what are the narratives or the words they should be using, what the other government mean when they're behaving in certain way. So it's everywhere, down from your hospital chambers to your movie theaters, everywhere.
interesting. And then I've also heard about where, for example, somebody is getting into the operation theater.
Mm-hmm.
So there are also people who are the medical counselors who are the go-between the person who's going to get operated, their family, and the actual place where the operation is going to be conducted. So the entire psyching them to be
Mm-hmm.
more positive, to be more ready for it, and not getting into the fear part, as you rightly said, which causes them to have abnormal behavior and also maybe anger. So as you rightly said that anger is usually the mask which is worn behind fear. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Correct. The psychologist you are talking about, we call them liaison therapists. So they do a lot of trauma counseling. So let's say you have just been in a massive accident and you need to suddenly be rushed into surgery, and the surgery could be life threatening. So you just do not have to be physically prepared, but your brain has a capacity to heal and build itself. So you have to mentally be prepared to process the entire thing. Your family needs to be prepared. Interestingly, we have oncotherapists, so people who specifically work with cancer patients,
Mm-hmm.
therapy in their family with grief therapy, making whatever life they have meaningful and positive and strong, and helping the family after even this person is no more with them to proceed further and have a fulfilling life.
Wow. So that's a really great service to
Yes.
such people. And so one thing which I'm able to understand is, one is if one person or a family is into stress.
Mm-hmm.
The other thing which you're also talking about is also in the corporate world, or maybe in the political world, or in the advertising and other areas, where you're talking about improving performances,
Right.
making performances improve. So there is also something, or say for example sports psychology. So it's not about winning or losing, but the way the person's behavior is on the ground or off the field. So those are also very important facets of psychology which is coming up today. So the positive side
Yes.
of positive enforcement, should I call
Yes.
it? Yeah.
So as you had already mentioned, it's not just about healing and providing direction, it's also about self-improvement. It is also you realizing I want to get into a more motivated state, into a better state of my existence would be the
Mhm.
correct way to put it. Also going back to, you asked me if there are any statistics I would like to give. I, being into the mental health sector, would like
Mhm.
to tell you about a research that was conducted. Interestingly, in 2018, not
Mhm.
too long ago, 2 years ago, we had a research conducted with 12 different states in India. So,
Okay.
from the National Institute of Mental Health. And we realized in a country of about 135 crores, I suppose, around
Yes.
135 crores, we have 150 million people in need for mental health interventions. And over the state of 12, over the 12 different states, we have 4,000 psychiatrists, 3,000 social workers, and 1,000 psychologists, which makes us less than a strength of 10,000 for a
My
population in need for 150 million.
my goodness. So that means you're totally overworked, and you cannot fill in this. It's not an automated process. It is
Absolutely.
not a machine methodology which can be used, and that's what is. It is tremendously mind intensive.
Absolutely. So every
And
time a parent comes in and asks me, is there a market for this kind of field? I love to give this statistic and tell them this is only one aspect of the field, and we have such a deficit of professionals. Think about the range of fields you can go into. So there
correct.
is as much as you want to explore, and there is always a market for this profession.
Wonderful. There's one question which somebody is asking. How do I choose? I mean, I'm doing my graduation. That's what this person has
Mhm.
to ask. After bachelor's in psychology, which field of psychology to take in master's? I'm totally confused.
Okay. So
And there's, of course,
firstly,
another question. What are the options after doing MSc in clinical psychology? Maybe
hmm.
we can take both of these.
Right. So going back into how do you decide what specialization you want to? Luckily, by the time you are doing your bachelor's, you get a taste of all these subfields. So by the time you leave your bachelor's, you have a knowledge of which is the field I feel myself fit into. For instance, I knew I didn't want to see myself as a clinical therapist. I want to be a counseling therapist. I knew a little bit about it, that there was an inclination, and you take it from there. So we have a good system in place where they teach you everything, give you a taste of everything, and then you can decide. So that shouldn't be a problem, hopefully. And what do you do after being a clinical psychologist? So training is one. You can work into any field, for sure. You can work into industries such as education, which can mean not just providing therapy for students, but the core of education, building syllabus, working for the Ministry of Education, working in hospital with patients, having your personal setup, anywhere and everywhere.
Wow. And even in the education, again, it is broken down. It could be child psychology, it could be adolescent, it could be parent and child relation, it could be teacher and child relation, it could be even a child and examination, a child and homework,
Absolutely.
interpersonal relationships. So I'm sure, I mean, it's broken up into so many different areas and it makes it that much more wide scoped and more interesting. Very true. Uh, the other factor which I'm always interested to know in every career option, what are those abilities or aptitude that you must have, or which are you know intrinsic skills which are required in this profession to become a psychologist?
Firstly is the interest. The biggest aspect is the interest and the motivation to work towards it. As I am sure you know, we used to work into intelligence a long, long time ago. We do not tap into intelligence. Intelligence has nothing to do with your ability to be a professional. Right now, it is only your ability, your interest, and your aptitude. What do you feel like, or where do you see yourself? So, for instance, if I think I can function well with a team, or if I'm not a team player, I love to work individually, I will not fit into a setup where I am required to put myself in a team situation. But I'll be a very good therapist privately, where I don't have to deal with others, where it is me and my job. Firstly, it's interest, then it's your ability to have a warm connection with your others. For sure, it is your ability for rapport building, the warm side of the, so a lot of us have a lot of logical side. There is emotional intelligence that we are talking about recently now. The emotional intelligence side needs to be a little more on the higher end. You have to read the room. You have to be sure of that you understand what the other person is feeling and operate from that space.
Okay. And in as far as is there a constant learning requirement because of every case is unique and there is of course a lot of research and science behind it,
Mhm.
but at the same time there is also newer and newer ways and methodologies which are being, so is there a necessity to be a very voracious reader?
There is, there is,
There is, okay,
there
and
is.
also a capability to write.
Yes, there absolutely is a need to learn constantly. It is one of those fields which is intensively driven by research and scientific awareness. Let's say the first testing which was ever built in was built in just after World War II. I mean, just during World War II. for recruitment purposes for the army, right? From then to now, there has been so many modifications. There has been so much change in the mindset of individuals. Your resilience have changed. The lifestyle has changed. So everything has to constantly go through a scientific, rigorous learning. For instance, if you do a mistake now, it does not cost you a machine, it costs you a human life.
Wow.
So,
That's so very well said. Yes, it's a human life, and that's very vital for all of us to realize this.
yes.
And does language play a role? You know, is it that necessary that we need to speak an international language, or we can be good in our, local vernacular to approach
Um,
people? Yeah.
I think it's always nicer to have few more language proficiency, but your core language skill is always going to take you forward. Your vernacular language, for instance, let's say I am communicating to you in a certain language, I'm talking in English, but there are certain emotions I would be only able to express in my mother tongue. They will not hold true in any other languages. So the connection that language makes between a client and therapist, or both of us as individuals, will become very important. Language proficiency will help you get further, but that is not the only requirement.
Yes. So, what we are trying to assimilate is, of course, the ability to constantly learn must be warm to everybody. Of course, the necessity to be interested in helping others to move forward. And also, there is also a very, very important issue which we need to realize is if we are with a person who's coming to the psychotherapist or the counselor, whatever he or she is emoting, the necessity to be impartial to it, not getting influenced by it. That's also a very vital situation that we all go through. And critically, if one were to look forward, of course, Neha, as she proudly says that, the numbers are much in demand. There is a huge necessity to have skilled and interested and passionate people in the world of psychology. The number of areas and the different departments which are there is expansive, and you can pick and choose as and when you grow. There is also a big necessity. I mean, I missed mentioning this. Neha is also a voracious writer, and she has a book in her name, a book of poems on emotions. Am I right?
Yes.
Called Kairos, and which is available on Amazon as well, right? So she has that too to her credit. Coming alongside Neha, one other aspect which I sincerely wanted to know from you is this: what is a growth? Many times parents and students, whenever they're choosing a career, they have one big question that they have: can I make it big in this career? What do you call it as a career progression? Whether two parts we will divide it to. One is if you're having your own practice. The other is, of course, if you're working in an institution, corporate or education, whichever way. How does one grow?
So there is obviously a progression. Like every other field, the harder you work and the more you stay in the field, the more possibilities to learn and explore and make a career out of it, and not just a job and a profile as
Mm.
such. Let's talk about when we are doing personal therapy or taking something personal or personal sessions. You start with a particular amount of clients, you start with a particular private practice.
Mhm.
The more good work you do, the more clients automatically come to you. It's like a doctor's cabin.
Correct.
You hear good things about them, you hear good credit, and you are necessarily attracted towards them because you know they're doing good job.
Mm.
That starts there. And people who say we have not heard a psychologist's name, I would like to mention this. So you have your celebrity psychologists. You have psychologists who deal with everything. You are so-called every common man psychologist, and there is a celebrity psychologist as well. So it starts from there and can expand to any sectors and has a growth possibility through the scaling. So if you're talking about economic growth, there's for sure an economic growth. That's about personal therapy. When it comes to a corporate sector, obviously it can start ranging from a small company startup where the idea needs to be pitched in, where the idea has to be put in a certain language, to a corporate counselor who deals with multiple companies. Right now, we work with a lot of MNCs where they facilitate therapy. So they ask their clients, their employees, to at least take a 10 therapy package, which the company itself pays for the employees, so that they have a good mental health, so they know where to go. And it's not just mental health, it's just how the company is going to scale forward. What do I need to do as a company to grow, both employee satisfaction and organizational behavior wise? So that would be corporate sector. You come back to educational sector, you can be a school counselor and a freelancing therapist in schools and educational fields. You can be working parents, teachers. I work with both parents, teachers and students, but I also work with a lot of students outside who has nothing to do with the school setup. It can be academic in nature, which is learning related. How do I get over exam anxiety? How do I do this? Or how do I make a career decision? To how do I accommodate myself if I am a differently able student?
Able student. Very well said. I think so. The growth pattern is humongous, and because the necessity is increasing, it is going to actually grow in leaps and bounds. And there was one more factor which was being asked is physics, chemistry, maths, and psychology. Could that also be a combination? Because there is
Yes.
also psychometry, the
Yes.
measurement of psychological areas. Yeah.
Yeah.
And there's one, I'll just point out these two questions as well. Can one become a child and adolescent psychologist? And then one person asking, how do I get into forensic psychology? So if you want to take those two.
Okay, starting with how do I become a child and adolescent counselor. I am a child and adolescent counselor. So anybody who is doing counseling in India, we are taught everything together. So there wouldn't be, I am just a child counselor. I could have trained extra to increase those proficiencies.
Right.
But by the virtue of the course, I am an overall counselor. So that is one thing. Again, the second question was, can you repeat the second?
Forensic psychology.
Okay. That is one hot topic right now, criminology, forensic psychology. There are certain colleges in India. For instance, there's one in Vadodara and Surat, two of them, which specifically works with forensic psychology. It will work with criminal behavior. A lot of our government services, police, a lot of that use those kinds of services. So you can do your honors and then you can do your masters in forensics.
Right. Wonderful. So I think so there are specialized areas, and more importantly, just as a suggestion to anybody who is asking this question, you must identify yourself, your interest, your ability, your aptitude, and your personality, whether it suits you to that profession. That's very vital. And it's not about because it is a that's not the way it should be. And as Neha rightly pointed out, it is a well thought of decision. You must know that this is what I am good at, and therefore I'm taking this decision. It's never the reverse. Never take a decision because it is a hot career tomorrow. It is whether I am good for that career, and that career will become a hot career for you. That is something which we can assure you at all times. Another very vital thing which I'll ask you, Neha, you've been through the entire education system. What is it that you would recommend when a student is choosing a college or an institution to pursue psychology? How important or relevant is it that the college, apart from, of course, the academics, the syllabus, and the university affiliation, the infrastructural requirement for having, kind of an outpatient department where he or she could actually practice psychology? How important is that, do you feel?
It is intensely important. I would say it's not just the academics, because we as a system can provide good academics, but good training is important. I can be very strong with my academics and not know what to do outside with a practice, right? So for instance, where I went to college, they made sure that we have 2 years of intensive training where we would go and see clients. come back, discuss about it, so that by the time I left college, I was ready to be a counselor. I would not question my competency, because academics is not enough to take you through the process.
Through the process.
It's just a building base, so it becomes extremely important, not just academically or even practicing, even for personality building. I think it becomes immensely important to be in a culture which is very enriching. So somebody, for instance, I sat in a classroom of 50 therapists. It was it was an emotionally draining experience. We shared, we were very sensitive to each other. We grew through learning of different cultures. So I live in a culture which is very different than I grew up in, and it becomes important that I know where I am and learn from it. So not just academically, but for personal growth also, it becomes massively important that you know and have a very enriching experience.
Experience. True. And the critical factor which one always has to remember is that as you grow forward, I mean, one question which is related to what is a salary package for to start off as a clinical psychologist. So, would you like to just share like that you live independently now, managing your entire household in a place like Bangalore? So, if you could just.
So, for instance, there is no fixed salary package to start off with. There's always a minimum range. As an intern, when you start, you get a particular amount which feels like peanuts. When you start working as a full-time professional, it becomes very, very different. All it is how much hard work you're going to put in, and where you stand with your proficiency is the only call for the salary package. You can make a lot of money, trust me, and you can also, like any other profession, not make anything to a lot. Like Mr. Shankar rightly said, I've been here for 3 years. I've been staying on my own, managing everything, my funds on my own. I'm very comfortable. I have enough savings to get me through a rainy day, if that's what you're asking for.
So as a woman, I think this is another very, very important factor is that uh, you can be independently strong, and how much of work you do and how much you enjoy your work, that's what's going to give you how much fulfilling in terms of returns, and the sky is the limit there. Very true. And is the government also recruiting people in as far as psychology is concerned?
Yes,
Is
yes.
there
So
another?
there is government recruitment in education, where the government is mandated to have psychologists in their system, where they will call you up and they will ask you to join. The interview processes will be through the government itself.
Right.
It would be in subfields, again, as we talked about, entertainment, education, healthcare, all of it.
Correct. So therefore, the government is also recruiting people with a psychology background, and
Right.
there is a huge scope over there as well. And critically, as we just come to, uh, so I mean, salaries and everything is done. Okay. So, okay, I'm just looking at.
Right.
Okay. So there's something called, after completing MPhil, can I still be a practicing psychologist? Of course, you can be. And
You
there's
can
never
also
a
be a researcher.
you
That's a
could be a
plus.
researcher, yeah. So because all the data that you would collect would actually enable you to further. So is there something called PSY.D and
Psych.
PsyD and then something PhD? So is there a difference there?
There
I
is a
mean,
difference. There is a
okay.
difference. In India, we don't have PsyD as such. We do not. PsyD is basically a compilation of MPhil and PhD. There are a lot of different countries give. So you get into the system and you finish 5 years and you have a PsyD in front of you and you leave. But in India, we don't have that system. It's necessarily just a compiled system. That's about it.
Okay. So basically another kind of certification which is
Yes.
there.
Yes.
Okay, that's cool. Wonderful. Having discussed so many things, Neha, just a couple of things before we break off for the day today. What is your advice for people in general in this pandemic? One or two pieces of advice for them to be mentally strong and being hopeful to see the future. Yeah.
Right. So right now the feelings have been extremely on the higher level, the anxiety, overwhelming. It is very important that you realize that you're feeling certain way. You tap into your feelings, you find social support. We have been talking about distancing. Yes, physically please distance, but socially please be more grounded in each other. Have conversation with family and friends. And if you can't, and if it's difficult, please take professional help. Also read the symptoms carefully. So I would suggest, if you see something in yourself or somebody you love or care for, if you suddenly see them becoming very aloof or quiet or sudden anger bursts, so either you get help or help them find somebody. Also, it becomes extremely important that you be kind to yourself. It is normal for you to be feeling all those so-called negative feelings. Find yourself some grounding. It is okay for you not to be okay right now.
Very well said. I think that's so well said. I think what Neha is also meaning is that A, first understand ourselves in terms of any symptoms. If we can help ourselves, well and good. Otherwise, seek help from people around you. Also, start understanding the ability to identify symptoms in others. And if required, keep some professional phone numbers, which is just a phone call away. Give them a phone call, and people like Neha and many others, though they are not in big numbers.
Right.
So again, as Neha says, it's less than 10,000 in a country which is so populated like India. So one can understand who can avail of their services. So please do take professional help, and it is okay to be not okay during these pandemic times. That's exactly what Neha has to say. So thank you so much, Neha. It's really been a wonderful understanding of your journey through psychology, and you've really helped us understand that there is a huge scope in tomorrow's world in a country like India. And not only in India, I mean, I see it as an opportunity in every developing and developed nation. You need to be very, very passionate about this profession.
Yes.
You need to be warm to people. You need to have great listening skills. Um, okay. And there is also a necessity that definitely following up to ensure that you are enabling people to go one step forward, being a catalyst, not reacting, but just being a catalyst in their movement. That's very vital for each one of us. So there's just one more question, which I hope I have time for this. You seem to be being asked a lot of questions. I want to know, after doing class 12 with psychology, apart from graduation in psychology, is there other job-oriented courses with psychology? Yes, there is, Shiv Shankar Pal. There are quite a few careers which are related to human behavior. You could be in consumers, you could be in retail, you could be in advertising, you could be in script writing, you could be in sports, you could, I mean, we can talk about it
Everywhere.
at length everywhere. So don't worry about it. So the options are humongous. Okay. Um, so that's very vital for all of us to understand. And just seeing one more question. Let me see. Okay. Okay, sorry, I think it's in the other one. No, that's about all the questions that we have for today. So thank you so much today, Neha. I think we've answered as much as we could. And more critically, what I want to kind of convey to everybody with Neha being around is please do take help. And as a career, it's just not about the pandemic situation. As a career, this is perhaps one of the fastest growing soft careers. And more importantly, I am sure that this is going to be one career which is not going to be automated so soon. No robo is able to take on the artificial intelligence, the intelligence of a psychologist whose presence of mind, whose ability to listen and convey things to use the other person's own thought process is still going to be a human to human interaction. Am I right, Neha?
Absolutely. And the best thing is you sleep beautifully at night knowing that you helped somebody at the end of the day.
Wow, that's such a lovely feeling to live. Yeah, absolutely. I think that's a great thing to say. Right. Thank you so much, Neha. It was wonderful having you today, and I'm sure you also enjoyed it, and wish you the
I
very
had a
best.
lovely time. Thank you so
Yes,
much
yes,
for having me
yes,
here.
yeah. And all the best for all your future endeavors. Thank you so much.